Raytheon has grown to become the second biggest aerospace and defense conglomerate in the entire world, with over 182,000 employees, recently being awarded massive contracts to supply Javelin missile launchers and 6 NASAM anti-air systems to Ukraine to the tune of over $1.2 billion. But why are they so successful? And what are some of the controversies Raytheon has survived? In 1922, the American appliance company was founded as a tiny outfit in Cambridge, Massachusetts, by engineers and MIT roommates Van Bush and Lawrence K. Marshall, along with scientist Charles G. Smith. The original focus of the company was on refrigeration technology, but Mr. Van Bush soon shifted gears to creating electronics. By luck or by fate, they immediately got into creating a technology that would be useful in World War II. The first product they made was a gaseous voltage regulator tube that was used to plug radio receivers directly into the power grid. This eliminated the use for short-lived, expensive batteries. They named the electron tube Raytheon, which roughly translates to light from the gods in Old French and Greek. They then changed the name to Raytheon Manufacturing Company in 1925 to market the tube, and they found a lot of commercial success here. By the 1930s, they were the world's largest vacuum tube manufacturing company, and they grew their business to include the manufacturing of transformers, power equipment, and electronic auto parts by acquiring the Acme Delta Company. So in 1938, Raytheon's Mr. Van Bush is the engineering dean and vice president of MIT at this point, and he's the nation's foremost science and technology advisor to the government. He was actually appointed by FDR himself to head the National Defense Research Committee right when the dark storm clouds of World War II began rearing their ugly head towards America. With Raytheon's already relevant experience in vacuum tubes, they found themselves perfectly prepared for the major action of World War II defense production. Recognizing the massive potential in microwave research for radar, Van Bush set up the radiation laboratory back home at MIT University. When World War II began, Raytheon received a contract from the United States government thanks to Mr. Van Bush's close relationship with the government as an advisor. By the end of World War II in 1945, the company was responsible for 80% of all magnetrons manufactured, but just as revolutionary was the change in the relationship between academia and the defense industry. And so with this, engineering universities like MIT went from catering to private industry in the pursuit of truth to becoming enlisted in a quote-unquote higher cause to fight for the US government. The Government-University Industrial Complex Cooperation was born and thrives to this day. But after World War II, Raytheon was still not one of the top dogs until they made 2 key discoveries that would take them to the next era and launch them onwards and upwards. First, Raytheon scientist Percy Spencer discovered that magnetron tubes could be used to rapidly heat food. This led to the commercial invention of the microwave oven that today makes up half of US Army lower enlisted soldier diets. And second, Raytheon developed the first guidance system for a missile that could intercept a flying target. This is the system that was a major turning point for the history of Raytheon. It took them from a tiny contractor in Massachusetts to one of the 100 largest companies in the United States. In 1950, Raytheon's SAM-N2 Lark missile became the first guided missile to destroy a target aircraft in flight. The success of the Lark missile was impressive, but not very profitable until America got involved in the Korean War. When this happened, Raytheon received big contracts from the US government to develop the Sparrow and Hawk missiles. The Hawk was the first ground-to-air guided missile and the predecessor to today's Patriot missile. At the time, it was the US Army's principal air defense weapon and was produced and stationed in countries all over Europe and even in Japan. In fact, in 1960, over 40% of Raytheon's profits came from the sale of the Hawk patents and selling the proprietary rights to foreign nations. In the year 1968, during the Vietnam War, only $60 million of Raytheon's $620 million in sales were directly from the US government and can be attributed to the Vietnam War. At the time, they were the 11th largest contractor in the country and employed only 30,000 people. The Hawk anti-air system has been sold to Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. Raytheon doubled down on the defense electronics business by acquiring these segments of their competitors. They got E-Systems from Chrysler as well as the Hughes Aircraft Company from GM, which included the General Dynamic missile business. At the same time, they divested from non-defense businesses like Amana Refrigeration, more missiles, less microwaves. Profits in defense companies are actually lower than your average industrial firms if we measure them as a percent of their total sales. That much is true, but at the same time, profits are far higher than industry average when you measure them as a percent of stockholders' equity. And so here is where we have to ask, where did the capital for Raytheon originally come from? Massive defense technology companies like Raytheon don't just spring out of thin air without outside funding. In the case of Raytheon, banks are responsible. In the early days of Raytheon, it was JP Morgan and Harris Trust of Chicago that funded them. Between 1938 and 1942, Charles Adams, an investment banker, was the director of Raytheon. In 1950, the First National Bank of Boston and Liberty Mutual were financial institutions that acquired interest in Raytheon, and these finance companies became representatives on the board of directors.
But what really made this investment successful was in 1976 when Raytheon started development of the Patriot missile system. This missile interceptor received international attention after being reportedly a massive success in the Persian Gulf War in 1991.
The 2000s marked a shift towards new technologies. Raytheon bought a robotic company called Sacros and BBN Technologies, which is involved in AI and quantum computing, and Applied Signal Technology. Applied Signal Technology is a controversial and somewhat mysterious company involved in online surveillance and data mining. Raytheon did billions of dollars in business with countries like Poland, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, mostly involving the Patriot missile defense system. In the late 2000s and 2020, Raytheon made a really smart move and they merged with United Technologies Corporation. When UTC and Raytheon Company became Raytheon Technologies, they instantly became the second largest aerospace and defense company by sales, with a total value of over $100 billion, trailing only Boeing. This merger was a brilliant move by Raytheon and a large reason why they're so successful. Even though they make a lot of different technologies, there's one underlining theme in their enterprise. Raytheon electronics and propulsion skills, not just in the aerospace industry, but also in planes, missiles, air traffic control, and satellite networks, makes them kind of a package that is difficult for competitors to match. According to a Forbes article, no other company has been able to bring geared turbofan engines to the market. Geared turbofans is technology that is more efficient than conventional turbofans. No other company outside of Raytheon has developed a fighter engine for the military that combines the performance, features, and stealth of that on the F-35. But as it says on their website, we don't actually make the F-35, we just make the important parts. But you don't get to be the world's second biggest aerospace and defense company without causing a little trouble and controversy. Raytheon pleaded guilty in the 1980s to trafficking in classified Pentagon budget documents and paid fines of around $1 million. Raytheon was basically caught trying to bribe Brazilian officials into buying their radar systems in the 1990s, although they did deny responsibility. In 2003, they paid $25 million for selling military communications equipment to Pakistan through a Canadian subsidiary. UTC military tech to China, and they pled guilty to violating the Arms Export Control Act and making false statements, resulting in a fine of $75 million in 2012. Raytheon and UTC have given a ton of money to federal political campaigns since the 2000s. Current Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is a former Raytheon board member, and Raytheon receives billions of dollars in contracts from the Department of Defense in 2022. And so today, Raytheon received $26.1 billion from the US Department of Defense in 2022, the second most, only behind Lockheed Martin. Not to mention, the technology they've been working on is controversial.
Raytheon created the Joint Standoff Weapon that's used as a delivery vehicle for cluster bombs, which has a devastating impact on cities.
They also developed active denial systems used for crowd control and tested on prisoners. These devices use millimeter waves to hit pain receptacles 1/64 of an inch beneath the skin, causing intense pain, like opening the doors of a blast furnace, according to one person the technology was tested on. These technologies are supposed to be used in prison riots, but they have been used around the world in regards to Afghan prisoners, migrants at the border, and DC police tried to get access to them during the riots in 2020. Raytheon also creates the Rapid Information Overlay technology, which can be used to track people's movements and even predict their behavior by mining their activity on social networking sites. This technology hasn't been sold, but it has been shared with the US government and NSA, so yeah, I guess we should all say hi to them right now. Their success has a major human element to it as well, with an emphasis placed on the value of the over 60,000 engineers working at Raytheon. But when Raytheon Technologies did $67 billion in revenue in 2022, they earned only $5.2 billion in net profit. So a lot of what they spend goes into the product. They've adapted over the years. That's the only way a refrigeration technology company founded in the 1920s can end up being an aerospace and defense corporation worth over $100 billion in 2023. Who knows what the future holds, but the next time you see a fighter jet fly over a football game, or you use a kiosk at an airport, or you put a Hot Pocket in the microwave, just remember that Raytheon did that.